begin with a prayer. Please close the eyes. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I bow to God. I bow to our Gurudev, to our Guruji, to our exalted lineage of Kriya Yoga Masters. And I bow to that same one divinity manifesting uniquely through each one of us. And I humbly pray that the Masters will use me as their instrument and guide this discourse. Om, 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 Amen. Again, good morning, welcome. Here we are starting off our few days of retreat, which is a real blessing for all of us, and to be in the presence of Guruji, the physical presence of Guruji, and the subtle presence of our masters. And the focus of this retreat will be on this, excuse me, very beautiful, very profound book called Life and Values, that was a transcription of talks that Guruji gave in Vienna and in Austin, Texas, I think in 2000 or 1999. And it was published on May 1st, 2001. So this is the 25th anniversary of this book. And it's a profound and really rich book that's kind of divided into two parts. The first section is section 1, Life, which was my opportunity to go over and share. And then the second part is on values. So there is a lot of information in this book. So I've done my best to take what I can and organize it in a way that I can present to the best of my ability, obviously with the grace of the Masters. And then during the rest of the retreat, every morning there'll be another teacher concentrating on different values that are section 2. Okay? But the book is available for sale. And this isn't for a sales pitch. This is a real treasure, packed full of very pragmatic, practical information that all of us will be enriched by reading and trying to practice. Okay, so I'm not only a salesperson, I'm a subscriber. Okay, so to begin, there's a lot of information here, and I pray that the Masters will allow me to share it in a way that's appropriate, that we all might get something from. Life and Values, Part 1, Song of Life. Life is a journey, carrying the baggage of our karma, the seed impressions of all our past activity, the aggregate balance sheet of all our pleasure and pain, the results of all our interactions with friend and foe, all confused with our likes and dislikes. This is the human condition that we have brought forward. And one theme that comes up again and again in Guruji's writings is that we are all the products of our own past actions. Whatever we are, Whatever we're experiencing, Guruji highlights again and again, is the result of our own past actions. Since we have created it, we can change it. I like to share this at the beginning too from Gurudev. This is the foreword of the Kriya Yoga book, The Science of Soul Culture and the Essence of All Religions. Gurudev says, we are born for self-realization, the God consciousness within us. Think of God constantly, no matter what you are doing. Practice makes man and woman perfect. An ounce of practice is worth a ton of theory. Again, an ounce of practice is worth a ton of theory. Theory will take you outside. Practice will bring you inside. Practice will make a person restless. Theory will make a person restless and selfish. Practice will take a person inside, give them inner peace, and free them from their ego. Gurudev stresses practice, practice, practice to feel the presence of God in every breath, in every sound you hear, in every sight you see, in every thought that comes to your mind, even in the breathlessness state. Feel the presence of God within your enemy as much as in your friend, which is a real challenge. Practice, 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 perceiving the divine omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, even when engaged with worldly activities. So to that end, one more thing I would like to share with you that was very helpful to me, that was one of the first lessons that Guruji gave me when I met him for the first time in 1998. And this was in Miami, and we were having a program, and for some reason, God's grace, Guru's grace, whatever, I was in the meditation hall, and Guruji was in the meditation hall. And he walked up to me, and he looked at me, and he went, and that was it. That was the lesson. Again, so close the mouth. Don't talk so much. Keep the tongue rolled back. This is a huge part of our practice. Keeping the Khetri Mudra, you pull the tongue back like that, it will keep your awareness much more in the cranium. When your awareness is much more in the cranium, you'll be much more aware of your breath. As you're much aware of your breath, you'll be much more aware of the nature of your thought, rather than getting pulled down into the lower centers. Listen to the divine sound as much as possible. Concentrate on that and keep the concentration in the fontanelle. Gurudev, at the end, was doing that constantly. People would say, all Gurudev ever does is hit himself on the top of the head. Well, that's because it's so much the essence of the practice. So again, while we're here, I would encourage all of us, keep your tongue rolled back. Talk less. Watch the breath, listen to the divine sound, and keep the concentration in the fontanelle. So, stages of life: childhood, adolescence, adulthood, middle age, old age. Our past karma, prarabdha, manifests throughout all of these different stages. I asked Guruji once about astrology. As I said, is astrology a time code for our prarabdha karma? And he said, yes, that's exactly what it is. As we go through these different stages, these different experiences are going to manifest. Gurudev said another beautiful thing. He said, every individual has a destiny. Every individual makes choices. We all proceed according to our own unique destiny. And our destiny is unfolding. And through the grace of God and the Masters and our own spiritual evolution has brought us to Kriya. And because of our own desire, we're here because we want to nurture more of that which is calling us from within, that divinity within. Life is an acronym for living in faith and eternity, or living in frustration and ego. We should aspire to live in the present with right attitude and outlook, aspiring to keep the mind peaceful, positive, and proactive. Life is a song, the body is the instrument, a gift of God. Consists of the brain and spine, 3 major nerve channels, the Ida, the Pingala, and the Sushumna. These channels provide the music of our life. Music has rhythm and sequence, discipline, patterns, intelligence, feeling. Noise is chaotic and undisciplined, and we should aspire to that. Only a happy person can sing the song of life. What spoils our singing is ego. Ego compares, competes, judges, and criticizes. Ego becomes an insurmountable barrier that steals the joy from life. How to deal with the ego? Guruji says there's 2 ways. 1, to increase the ego to infinity. Aham Brahmasmi, I am God. As Jesus said, I and my Father are one. That's a challenging approach. The second one is realize that everything is impermanent. Realize that everything is a gift of God. Idam te namama. Result, life becomes more pleasant, less of a struggle. Surrender to the divinity, allow life to unfold, and realize everything that's born will die. The 4 Noble Truths of the Buddha, one of the first one is inherent in life is suffering. And what causes so much of our suffering is attachment and desire. And this attachment is very binding. And it causes immense suffering because we push against it, because inherently whatever we have is going to be taken away. It's the law of impermanence, and there's no getting around it. So if we can release that, we can rid ourselves of a lot of self-torture, which is self-generated as a result of not accepting reality and pushing against it, fighting against it. The divine song. In deep meditation, the music of Krishna, the divine sound, Anahata Divani, is heard along with seeing divine light. The song must be heard with deep concentration. As a result, one forgets their own existence. Mind becomes calm, quiet, no restlessness. All desires of the mind are gone, and the mind becomes pure and concentrated. Creation manifests in rhythm. We can enter deeper into silence with rhythmic breath. Creation manifests rhythm and brings beauty and joy in every season of life. So Guruji uses several different analogies here to discuss life. song of life, game of life, battle of life, junctions of life, and drama of life. So the first is the game of life. The entire creation is God's play, the play of consciousness. Play can be compared to a game, and we are all participants. We can compare the game of life to a game of soccer, and Guruji says there are 2 teams, each of 11 players. The first team is comprised of the 5 organs of action and the 5 organs of perception and the mind. Well, here again, attachment to sense objects is very binding and enjoys peace of mind. Guruji says we should use the analogy from the Katha Upanishad of the chariot and the horses can be very useful. The soul, the self, is the lord of and is seated in the body chariot. The intellect is the charioteer, that which makes the decision. The mind is the reins, which connects to the horses of the senses. The sense objects are the path, the road. The self, the soul, is the enjoyer in combination with the senses and mind. Atma, Indriya, Mano Yukta. It's as a result of the 3 together that we experience the world. And as a result, the soul then ultimately is the enjoyer, but only in combination with the mind and the senses. In man, all 5 senses are equally powerful, yet when properly trained, the sense organs are controlled by the reins of the mind and will help us reach the goal of life. The mind is the captain. Mind is made up of many thoughts, and it's like the flow of a river. And Guruji says this river has 2 currents. One goes down and takes us out, and one goes up and takes us inside. It's curious, it was in Guruji's Bhagavad Gita class, in that series that we have on the website. This is volume 51, if anyone's interested. It's really profound. Guruji really gives a nice explanation of the chakras. And if any of you have thought, why do we go down the front and come up the back? It's because the outgoing nature of the chakras is in the front, and the inner coming up is in the back. Guruji says it's the Kauravas in the front and the Pandavas in the back. So that kind of explains that, which is useful. Mind is a flow like a river, a continuous flow of thoughts. Sometimes thoughts are dirty and polluted, sometimes clean and clear. The mind can go outward to sense organs. This is the centrifugal energy that takes us out, or inward toward the source. Going inward, we can distill and purify the quality of our thoughts. By changing our thinking patterns, we can transform the quality of our life. And again, we can only do that if we are watching the thoughts. Thoughts are an interesting thing. In the Jnana Tankalini Tantra book that Guruji did, it talks about the pathway of the thought. From the para, from the unmanifest, the thought, this seed impression, enters into the astral body. It's where it's called pasyanti. At that point, this seed then takes on, is clothed in the language, the mother tongue generally, of the person, and we cognize it. So then there's a reaction. First there's a stimulus as we recognize the thought from the para to the pasyanti. Then it immediately triggers in the heart. The heart is the playground of the mind and emotions, where it sets from stimulus to response. in the heart. Then from response, it comes out in expression, either vocal or action. And Guruji said it's like a swan's neck. And if you watch, you can see more and more of the time this kind of evolution of the thought. And I have to say, the other thing, so we talk about the para, where is this? I'm not sure, but Gurudev always talked about this karmasya, this bag of karma that we carry with us. Gurudev always spoke of the midbrain. Something's going on in the midbrain, and if you watch your own thoughts, we will see the thought entering into the brain. And I remember, I think it might have been Guruji saying, the thought then enters, but at some level, it first is triggered in the right brain, which is the holistic side of the brain and the emotional side, which would make sense that there's this relation to that. And then it crosses the mind and goes into the left brain. And the left brain is the side of linear thinking and speech. So quite profound. And as we, again, watching the breath, we can watch the thoughts actually coming. We can feel the emotions starting to rise, and ideally, we can do something about it. Between stimulus and response, there's a gap. And if we can be present enough, we can catch the thought before it comes out, and we all know the result of thoughts we wish we could take back, express thoughts that we wish we hadn't said. So again, very powerful. The mind is dynamic and restless, playground of good and evil. The play continues endlessly between good and bad, causing happiness and unhappiness. So by controlling the mind, we can control the emotions. By controlling the emotions, we can maintain more balance and, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, equanimity, balance of mind is yoga. Memory and thought. Thoughts originated from memories, samskaras of past experience or learning, only things we have known through the senses. Every moment of our life passes into the memory bank. Think of that for a minute. We have this audio-visual camera that's going on all the time. Every thought, every action, even dreams, whatever, is stored. And apparently, as we get close to the time of death, our whole life will play out before us again. Gurudev talks about this in the Kriya Yoga book. As a result of that, when a person is close to a natural death, they go into that state. The whole life, then, we recount the whole life. As a result, the prominent desires of the incarnation manifest into a state of mind that then predetermines the prarabdha karma of the next incarnation. So before we leave this body, this is with a natural death, the prarabdha karma of our next birth is already predetermined. Then we go wherever it is we're supposed to go for a time. Now this is curious, again, relating back to this Bhagavad Gita course we take with Guruji that I highly recommend. He says, according to the yogic scriptures, the turnaround time from natural death to rebirth is approximately a year, including the 9 months in the womb. Although Gurudev then was asked, and this is in his book, Eternal Quest or Divine Quest, I'm sorry, I forget the name. It's the book of questions and answers. Gurudev is asked about that. He says it's the yogic experience that the soul most often, and I'm paraphrasing as best I can, some souls enter the womb at the time of conception. He says the yogic experience is that most souls enter the womb through the fontanelle after the first trimester, when the fetus is completely formed. And he uses the analogy that a person can move into a house and build it around them, or the person can wait until the house is built and then move into it. And then in the womb, the fetus is meditating. The fetus is bathing in the light of the soul, and Gurudev says, is planning the incarnation ahead, has the memory of who and what it is and who and what is coming. And Gurudev says, and Guruji says this as well, bathing in the light of the soul. And the little fetus, if anybody's seen a picture of a fetus in the womb, it sure looks like this, like it's praying, saying, oh God, this time I won't forget you, this time I won't forget you. Then here it comes. We come out the birth canal, however that happens, and with the first breath, there's something, my understanding it's called Vaishnava prana. I'm not sure, I may be mispronouncing it, but anyway, for the vast majority of it, it wipes away that memory. And once again, here we are. Back again. There are some that remember the womb and never lose memory. Guruji has written that that's his experience. Yogananda, the same thing. They remember the experience of being in the womb and did not lose consciousness of that as they came into the world. Guruji, I don't know if you know, but he's shared too that he was born 2 months premature, very sickly, and he had an awful lot of health issues as a child, which is another story which is very profound. So, thought, okay, so every moment of our life passes. Experience is stored in the memory. Memory is the place of origin of our thoughts. This is curious because they also mention, Guruji was mentioning that while this body is unique to this incarnation, our mind has been with us lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, which has, and those samskaras are creating our personality, how we perceive the world, how we relate to some people. It's like, some people it's like, well, I know you, and other people it's like, ooh, I know you. It's quite interesting. We had this was a question and answer with Guruji at one time in Miami. And Guruji was getting questions about past lives. So after about 3 or 4 of them, Guruji sort of had enough. And he says, past lives. Everybody wants to know about past lives. He said, I'll tell you this. He said, if you could see your past life, what you would see is the people you're having trouble with in this life are the same people you were having trouble with in the last one. Which is something to reflect on, isn't it? That we should maybe try to get our house in order, however that takes, because until we do, it's coming around again. So again, Guruji, again, he says this, I guess it touched me, which is why I'm sharing it, is he said, you have to realize you're preparing for your next life in this life. What we are doing now is preparing us for our next life. And then he would kind of end it up with, so be careful. Good advice. Thought brings transformation in our life. Thoughts of anger, passion, love, etc. Thought influences our personality. We should increase the quality of thought and decrease the quantity of thought. We should really strive to think less. We have such a tendency to overthink. So one little technique that I share is the mind needs a job. So this idea of aspiring to listen to the divine sound, we know that we experience the sound. We're also very aware of the voice in our head. And Guruji talks about something called a japa gayatri. Just even watching the breath is a form of mantra. But if we give the mind a job of just saying Om, as we're listening to the divine sound, it gives the mind something to do, which then really helps with a lot less chatter, a lot less thought. And you can also, there's a relationship between activity of thought, of respiration and pulsation. And as we sort of tune in more, you're feeling the natural pulsation of the body, because we all know when we get worked up, upset, what happens? Our heart's pounding away. So just that idea of kind of tuning into that natural pulsation and using that even as kind of a springboard for Om, 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 or whatever, while we listen to the sound, can be very helpful in just quieting the mind. When we need to think, the mind is there. What we just don't need to be doing is listening to that constant yab, 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 yab. Swami Shivananda says, constantly mark the ways of the mind. The mind tempts, exaggerates, alarms unnecessarily with vain worry, fears, and imagining. A tremendous amount of time is wasted and anxiety is generated through this false imagining. And some say you can look at fear as an acronym for false evidence appearing real. And part of the dynamic of the mind is its ability to project. I think it's called Vikshepta Shakti. The mind projects. The mind also likes to make snap judgments and form conclusions. And then we act on these assumptions and conclusions, and more often than not, they're false. So here I want to share something like this. This is a thing I found that is really, I thought, useful in this sort of endeavor. This is a quote from Walt Whitman, the poet. It says, "Be curious, not judgmental." Think of Jesus says, "Judge not, for as ye judge, so will you be judged." And it's, okay, so I'll read this because it tells it better than I do. Most of the trouble we get into, interpersonally, emotionally, even professionally, starts with one reflex, assuming we already understand. Judgment is the ego's shortcut. It feels efficient, but it closes the door to learning, misreads other people's intentions, and traps us in the same stories we've been telling ourselves for years. Curiosity does the opposite. It slows the moment down just enough to notice the hidden angles. Why someone reacted so sharply? What fear is underneath your own irritation? What piece of context you never bothered to ask about? Curiosity isn't soft, it's courageous, because it requires admitting, I don't know everything yet. And that's the foundation of growth, understanding, and empathy. Judgment wants certainty. Curiosity wants truth. The truth always lies one question deeper. So, This person suggests, run a simple experiment. Every time you feel a snap judgment forming about yourself or someone else, pause and ask, one clarifying question. Example, what might I be missing? What else could be true here? If I were acting generous instead of defensive, how would I interpret this? Track one moment each day where curiosity changed your reaction. By the end of the week, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. Your world gets bigger, your relationships get easier, and you stop tripping over the same assumptions that used to hold you back. Curiosity isn't just a mindset shift, it's a pattern interrupt that opens up new possibilities every time you use it. So I share that because I think it's profound. Okay. Team 2. 11 players. This is great. Viveka, Vairagya, Sama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana, Mumukshutvam, Guru Bhakti, Sadhana Icha. What are those? First is Viveka. Discrimination. Discrimination is a quality of the intellect, not the mind. There are many categories of discrimination. This separates us from the animals to a large degree. We can separate the whole from the part. We can separate the means from the goal. We can separate the pleasurable from the preferable. We can separate the self from the non-self, and we can separate the eternal from the ephemeral, that which changes. This is a very powerful function. We can separate good from bad, true from false. This is in Tattva Bodha. Adi Shankaracharya talks about this, Viveka and Vairagya. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna talks about Abhyasa and Vairagya. These are very powerful. A character of discrimination is to judge, that I just spoke of. Master stress, we should use this ability to judge ourselves and not others. To judge our own life and activities and act accordingly for our own judgment. Shed the burden of judgment. There is great freedom in this. Boy, isn't that the truth? To realize we do not have to have an opinion about everything. That's a real relief, because all kinds of stuff is coming at us all the time. And what do we focus on? There's a really nice book by Stephen Covey called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And what he focuses on, he said we should focus on our areas of influence rather than our areas of concern. Our areas of influence is something we can do something about. Our areas of concern are something, okay, we can be aware of the national debt and everything else going on in the world to be informed citizens, but how much time we spend dwelling on it, how much anxiety we generate as a result is not good use of our time. So focus on the area of concern. Focus on self-analysis and self-study. This is another good tip. Separate the event from the interpretation. This idea of cultivating the witness. Guruji often speaks of this. Be the witness, not the judge. See it, observe it, with curiosity, try to understand it as best you can, but don't judge it. Don't think, oh, this is also very good. That's interpretation then, is where you think you have the answer and place the judgment on it. Think rationally, critically. This is really as opposed to emotionally. And what we were talking about of curiosity versus judgment is exactly that. Curiousness is much more critical thinking. Snap judgment is emotional thinking. And then the idea that when we make that decision, we see that our ego then attaches to it. That's my judgment. That's my opinion. And my opinion is me. And it's not. It's an opinion that when somebody then questions it, we get really worked up. Whereas, once again, if you can sort of just stand back and look at it and think about it, can be very useful. Another thing Gurudev stresses that I found very useful. Gurudev says, do not argue. Arguing wastes your time, life, and energy. Discuss for analysis and understanding. But nothing positive will come, generally speaking, from arguing, because it's to that point. I am my opinion. You are your opinion. You question my opinion, my judgment. You're questioning me, and it's a fight. Yogananda said, a person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. That's what Gurudev's talking about. It's pointless. Only if you can discuss from sort of a place of calmness, open-mindedness, curiosity of analysis and understanding, might it be enriching and purposeful. Think rationally rather than emotionally. That's profound, because emotionally is snap judgment, we'll see. And I think it's Aristotle or Socrates, said the three primary means of persuasion are ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos is the character of the person delivering whatever it is, the discourse or the argument. In some cases, like when Guruji speaks, obviously, that's of tremendous high value and should be taken in that light. But that's one way we can be convinced. If we are convinced in the authority and authenticity of the speaker. The second is logos. Logos is logic. And the third is ethos, emotions. And of the three, the most powerful is emotion. That's the one that seems to hit us the quickest. That's the one that hit us the deepest. That's the heart as opposed to the head. That's the mind and emotion as opposed to the discrimination of the head. So beware. Just be aware of that. Thinking rationally, curious as opposed to judgmental, snap judgment. The second is vairagya. This is very positive as well. Non-attachment or dispassion. Raga means attachment. Attachment is the cause of bondage, cause of suffering. Non-attachment is the cause of liberation. Non-attachment is the ability to fully appreciate something without clinging to it in a possessive way. Nice. So think about that. That's sort of, if we can be present and accept whatever comes again as a gift of the divine, enjoy it completely without clinging to it. This is what is the binding thing. This is what the Buddha said is the cause of our problems, is clinging and attachment and desire. Non-attachment is the ability to fully appreciate something without clinging in a possessive way. And I thought a nice example of this is enterprise rent-a-car. This sort of came to me. So, I use budget rent-a-car this time. It's the same thing. So, I get this car. I get to use it. I have to be responsible for it. It's a nice car. We're enjoying it. But I'm really aware of the fact it's not my car, and I'm going to have to give it back. And how much more of other things can we bring that kind of attitude? If we think of, as the masters tell us, everything is a gift of God, the enterprise rent-a-car of the divine, what we've been given, we have, and eventually we will have it. For how long? That's all dependent on our prarabdha karma. When the time is up, we have to move on, and it goes back to its source. So that's real positive. I had an interesting experience. I was in Miami, and I went to the rental car place, and the car that I rented was kind of a modest car, and they ran out of them. So I got this brand new Mustang, which was a very nice car. This was a hot car. It looked very nice. And I was clear, okay, this is fun, but I knew it's not mine. Anyway, it was in the parking lot one day, and I had to go somewhere. And I just noticed when I went to the car to get into the car, there was this person looked at me and goes, "Richard, that's your car?" I said, "Yeah." I could see in his eyes, Stock and Richard went like that. All of a sudden, Richard is a Mustang. I'm being identified, not with who I am, but with what I have. That's a very powerful thing. It was a real powerful lesson. And I thought, wow, look at this, look at that. And I just said, yep, I gotta go. And for a time, it was my car. I'm responsible for it. Anyway, develop a state of equanimity and inner happiness, balance, to live a complete life. Do not live in attachment. Be compassionately detached. Be like a lotus leaf, lives in water, grows from mud, but stays above. In contact with water, the water just simply rolls off. That's a nice thing to aspire to. I was sharing with some friends a quote from Oprah Winfrey that I found very useful, sort of speaking about santosha, contentment. This is a person, with tremendous wealth and privilege and power and everything. And her advice was, be happy with what you have, and you'll get more. Be discontent with what you have, and you will never have enough. Again, wise words. Be in the world, but not attached to the world. God gives and takes away. We have come, and we will have to go. Okay, so there's a lot more here I could go over. Let me sort of think what might be nice to go over in the last 10 minutes that I have. Look at these pages. We could be here a long time. Okay. Nothing is permanent. Remember the impermanence of the world. We are living in a changing world to learn and to grow. None of your material things go with you on your journey to the next life. Only the results of your good and bad deeds will go with you. Your meditation, your prayer, your service, your love will be your real assets on your journey to the next life. There was one more. Let me share this as much as I can. This is beautiful. Be fearless. There is a person from the past, Bhatrahari. Are any of us familiar with Bhatrahari? Okay, thank you. King, poet, yogi, who wrote, "O my friend, if a man has a family with patience as the father, forgiveness as the mother, continuous peace as the wife, truthfulness as the son, compassion as the sister, and mind control as the brother, whose bed is the earth, whose clothes are the infinity of space, and whose food is the nectar of knowledge, where is the cause for fear?" Patience as the father. Patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble or suffering without becoming angry or upset. Patience is the ability to maintain a good attitude while waiting. Patience is acceptance, a response of the intellect for real success. Patience is the first and foremost quality we must practice. Guruji has a beautiful little book in that Art of Living and Giving series. It's book 8, I think, called Patience. They're all great. I really recommend the patience one. He says from the practice of patience, all virtues will manifest. Patience as the father. Patience at the time of trouble is the pillar of success. To work with love without concern about the result is real patience. Sound decisions, sound judgment, and sound thinking are all born out of patience. If we approach each circumstance slowly and with calmness, we will almost always make the right decision. Patience brings forth tolerance and fortitude. Forgiveness as the mother. Forgiveness is a source of kindness and compassion to our fellow humans. Like a mother, we should be able to give openly and forgive those around us. Forgiveness eases our burdens, ridding us of hatred, anger, spite, and resentment that we carry on our shoulders. Once we have forgiven, we are free to aspire to the greater things. Forgiveness is the freedom from a past that wishes to hold us down. And you think the greatest example of forgiveness clearly would be Jesus on the cross. When these men are nailing him to the cross, and he says, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." They're overwhelmed with ignorance. And so lost in the tamasic brutality of what they're doing. And here they go. They're just lost. They're just, animal nature is just so present. And he's saying, forgive them. Guruji did a very nice class on forgiveness. And he said, first and foremost, we should forgive ourselves for what we've done. Accept ourselves, forgive ourselves, own our past actions, own up to the fact that we will have to face the consequences of them, and try to be unburdened with them. Bury the past. The past is dead. That's Sri Yukteswar. Everything will improve if you are making a spiritual effort now. But it's tough, because those old samskaras keep coming back, and they've just got such a hold on us. So it's very difficult, but there again, something to work with. Truth as the child. We give birth to every thought, word, and action we perform. When we realize the importance of our creations, we will make sure every thought, word, and action is true in fact as well as in spirit. God is truth. When one lives in God-conscious thoughts, seeing the presence of God everywhere, there will be no room for falsehood or in any aspect of life. So, patience, peace, truth. Compassion as the sister. Live intelligently and tactfully, with mental maturity and emotional balance. This is something. Compassion comes through a deep understanding of human nature and how relationships work. Be objective about the behavior of others. If we understand the circumstances and reasons for certain behavior, we can be more compassionate. And we've all heard that expression, before you judge, walk a mile in someone's shoes. Controlled mind is the brother. Be the master of your mind, not the slave. Summary. If we cultivate these qualities, we will achieve more peace and happiness. Meditation and spiritual study can make a person fearless. One who remains fixed on truth will not be afraid of anything. Truth makes one fearless. The ultimate end of the battle of life is to live with love and remain free from fear. So this is a little treasure here that is available, that I recommend everybody take and study. It's profound. So with that, thank you. I'll end my talk and we'll end with a prayer. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much.